Bazan will lead off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Minister. Glad to see you at committee. I must say I'm disappointed with the defense policy update. There's no sense of urgency here. We've got war waging in Ukraine. We just witnessed Iran attack Israel last night. We have seen war throughout the Middle East and in the Red Sea. And we are witnessing a powder keg that's about to explode in the South China Sea and the Strait of Taiwan. And yet all the promises that you're making and the explorations that you're doing doesn't happen until really after the next election. So in typical Liberal fashion, it's dithering, it's delays, it's kick the can down the road. We're hearing stories about our troops using food banks and relying on food donations. You said yourself that the recruitment and retention crisis put the Canadian Armed Forces in a death spiral. You have said that we're short 6,700 military housing units right now, and we have troops that are living in their cars, they're living rough, they're living in tent cities, and we hear those stories all the time. So, you look at the media that cover the DPU. The titles are, New Liberal Defense Policy, in no hurry to face dangerous global realities. Don't be fooled, Trudeau doesn't care about defense in the National Post. Globe and Mail is our outdated defense policy. Canada isn't prepared for today's threats. It just goes on and on that, Globe and Mail also had one. Canada's new defense policy commits to exploring instead of committing. So I think when you look at what academics are saying, what military experts are saying, what the news are saying, is that there's a lack of seriousness here in the defense policy update. So my question to you, that Minister Anand in 2022, when she kicked off the DPU, said that there was going to be aggressive options to get Canada to 2% of GDP spending to meet the NATO commitment. And there's no commitment in this DPU. Why?
Yeah, thanks very much, James, and for sharing some of those newspaper headlines. I think you missed a couple. In particular, I'd point out the one today in today's Globe and Mail, where they interviewed the Chief of Defense, who I think spoke very strongly about the value of this policy update. But rather than debate those things, I would just simply remind you that this investment, and this investment's layered on the work that we did with Strong, Secure, and Engaged, which actually raised defense spending over an 8-year period by nearly 70%. And what this will result in by 2029 is from the very dark days of 2014, the last days in which you were a parliamentary secretary of defense, where defense spending, where defense spending actually fell below 1% of GDP. This will result cumulatively in almost a tripling of our defense spending, and I think what we've been able to demonstrate is a strong,
let me say this,
upward
Minister,
trajectory
that,
of defense spending
in the time that
since
we
those
were
days.
in government, I'm very proud of our record in supporting our troops. We never had troops lined up at food banks. We never had troops living rough. We never had our international allies say they can't depend on Canada. That's all on this Liberal government. That is not on previous government. And so let's talk about the housing, because you have put in here, you say $300 million, but there's only $8 million that's committed to housing at this point in time, and there is $0 committed for this fiscal year. There's $0 committed in the DPU for next fiscal year. You said we're 6,700 homes short for our troops, and we know that over the last 2 years that National Defense only built 38 homes in 2 years. That isn't going to close a gap in 6,700 homes, nor will the $300 million get us there.
Great question. So let me share with you some of the things we're doing. And you may have heard our housing ministers already announced that we are investing not only money into the building of affordable rental housing for Canadians, which will include members of the armed forces, but we're going to leverage the value of some of the property that the National Defense Department currently holds, so that we are already in very important discussions with municipalities and with private industries to form public-private partnerships to get housing built rapidly. There are a number of really important initiatives, and I know we're all looking forward, and I'm sure you are, to the budget that will be released on Tuesday, which will create I think we will be able to reveal a real urgent sense of getting housing built. There are real opportunities for members of the Canadian Armed Forces. We've consulted with them. I've been to those bases. We've heard them very clearly about what they need, and we're responding to that with not just an investment of money, but new approaches to getting it done.
In the last minute that I have here, there is in the DPU a commitment to replacing our aging Victoria-class submarines. It says conventional subs. The Prime Minister at the announcement last week said that nuclear subs are also an option. Can you explain the contradiction between the DPU and the Minister? And are we going to go ahead with purchasing submarines that can go under ice to patrol our Arctic when you look at the proliferation of submarines around the world, and protect our coastlines from all three sides to ensure that we are protected here and know what's happening in our Arctic waters?
Yes. Yes, we are going to.
How much?
What's that?
How much is it going to cost?
Well, that's actually the work that's underway. When we said we're exploring the work that needs to be done, we're working with the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Armed Forces and the Department of National Defence to determine what their operational requirements are. And as the Prime Minister indicated in his remarks last Monday, nothing's off the table. We're going to listen to them. And we're also working with our allies. We'll also then explore what's the best way to respond to that. But the Prime Minister has been very clear. The document makes clear. We're going to do it because Canada's national defence requires it.
Thank you, Mr. Bazan.